The silver cage refused to close around her. After years of being forgotten by everyone who hurt her, Nerya Vale had finally become impossible to erase. For one impossible breath, the entire moon court forgot how to breathe. Nerya stood barefoot inside the royal cage, wrists marked with old silver bruises, gray servant dress torn at the hem, dark hair falling loose around a face too pale from hunger and too steady for the accusation laid at her feet. Above her, the full moon poured through the glass ceiling of the judgment hall, turning every noble wolf into a blade of white light and every whispered cruelty into something clean enough to pass for law. They had dragged her here as cursed blood, but Nerya's curse had never made wolves fear her. It made them forget her after they had already hurt her. People did not simply ignore Nerya Vale. They forgot her in pieces. A cup placed into her hands, then blamed on no one when it shattered. A bruise left on her wrist, then denied because no one remembered gripping her. A task given at dawn, then punished at dusk, because the steward could not remember giving it. In the lower halls, she left charcoal marks on doorframes just to prove she had passed through rooms others swore she had never entered. That was why the moon-cursed accusation had stuck so easily. Not because anyone remembered what she had done. Because no one remembered enough to defend her. The silver cage had never failed before. It stood at the center of the hall like a moon-made skeleton, each bar carved from blessed silver, each hinge inscribed with prison oaths older than the throne. The cage did not simply hold bodies. It held the legal memory of why a body had been taken. If the cage closed fully, the accused belonged to the court. Their name, scent, bond, and wolf could be sealed away for the safety of the kingdom. That was what High Counselor Maron Thorne had told the court. That was what everyone pretended to believe. "Close it," Maron ordered. The silver bars trembled. Nerya did not. She had learned long ago that fear fed the people who named it evidence. The crescent mark beneath her collarbone glowed whenever silver chains came too near. They said a servant with a mark like that could poison mating bonds, weaken noble wolves, and carry cursed wolf blood into royal lines. No one had ever proven it. No one needed to. A mark was enough when the marked girl kept vanishing from memory. The cage door swung inward. Across the hall, Alpha King Ronan Veyr sat on the black wolf throne, silver-gray eyes fixed on her with a stillness colder than hatred. He was feared across the northern packs, not because he shouted, but because he rarely needed to. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black battle leather and a mantle of dark wolf fur, he looked like a king carved from midnight in winter. Yet Ronan had said nothing when they chained Nerya, nothing when Maron named her cursed, nothing when the court agreed to place her inside the silver cage. Nerya held his gaze from behind the bars. If he expected begging, he would be disappointed. Maron raised his moonstone staff. "By prison oath and sacred moon law, let the cage receive the cursed blood of Nerya Vale." The cage door moved, then stopped. A crack in certainty passed through the hall. Maron's eyes narrowed. Again, the silver bars shuddered harder. Moonlight thickened across every hinge, lock, and blessed strip of metal. The cage tried to obey the court. It could not. The door remained open. Nerya felt something wake beneath her feet. Not power. Not yet. A question. The silver floor under her bare soles warmed instead of burning. That was wrong. Silver always made the crescent beneath her skin ache until she could barely stand. But this silver did not bite. It listened. One bar bent away from her, then another. The cage was not opening wider. It was turning. The first noble screamed when the back of the cage unfolded from its frame and stretched toward the throne. Silver bars slid across the marble floor like living bones, silent and precise. They passed around nobles, guards, and Maron's staff without touching them. They went to the Alpha King's throne. Ronan rose. Too late. The silver bars coiled around the base of the black wolf throne, locking beneath the carved claws, climbing the backrest, wrapping around the crowned wolf heads. The throne did not crack. It accepted the cage as if it had always been waiting. The court erupted. "Protect the king." "Witchcraft." She turned the cage. Maron struck his staff against the floor. Silence. But the cage answered first. Silver light burst from the open bars around Nerya and shot toward the throne. Across the black stone, words appeared in moonscript so bright every noble had to shield their eyes. "A prison oath returns to its owner." Nerya stared at the words. Owner. Not prisoner. Not judge. Owner. The cage did not judge prisoners. It remembered owners. Ronan's face did not change, but something in his eyes did. The look of a man whose suspicion had just become evidence, and whose evidence had chosen a sharper target than he expected. Nerya understood then. He had known something was wrong with the cage. Maybe not this. Maybe not her. But enough. Enough to let Marin use her. Enough to place her inside a prison built to erase lives. You knew, she said. Her voice carried through the hall. The nobles fell quiet. Not because she mattered to them, but because a servant girl had spoken to the Alpha King like an accusation. Ronan looked at her through the silver light. I suspected. The answer was honest. That made it worse. Nerya stepped to the open cage door. The silver parted around her like moonlit water. You suspected, she repeated. So you let them lock me inside. Ronan's jaw flexed. Marin seized the opening. Your Majesty. The cursed girl is manipulating the cage. Her blood is reacting against lawful confinement. The cage turned one bar toward him. Just one. Marin stopped speaking. Nerya noticed. So did Ronan. The silver bar around the throne tightened until the black stone groaned. Then the cage spoke again. Not in words first. In scent. A wave of stolen mate bonds rushed through the chamber. Cedar, snow, smoke, rose ash, rain on fur, blood under moonlight. The scent struck every wolf at once. Noblewomen staggered. Warriors clutched their chests. A young lord fell to his knees, whispering a name no one around him recognized. Nerya pressed one hand to her collarbone as her crescent mark burned cold. The cage had not been used only for cursed blood. It had swallowed bonds, true mates, names, scent memories. Ronan stepped down from the throne dais. The silver bars tightened behind him, warning him not to pretend distance meant innocence. Marin, he said, voice dangerously quiet. Open the cage records. Marin's face went pale. The records are sealed under council protection. Open them. Nerya felt the question under her feet sharpen. The cage wanted more than records. It wanted the oath reversed. Marin lifted his staff again, but his hand shook. If we open every prison oath, we risk releasing cursed bonds into the kingdom. Nerya turned toward him. Or returning the ones you stole. The words left her before she could fear them. The cage blazed. Her crescent mark answered. Silver light climbed from the floor to her wrists, outlining old scars she did not remember receiving. Around her, the cage bars opened fully, revealing hidden moon script carved on their inner sides. Names. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. Among them, one line burned brighter than the rest. Nerya Vale cage claim pending since childhood. The cage had not been waiting for a cursed girl. It had been waiting for someone whose prison oath had been written before she was old enough to speak. The hall tilted. Ronan saw it. Marin saw it. And for the first time, the Alpha King looked not at the cage, not at the council, but at her as if the trial had become something far older than his suspicion. The silver bars around the throne tightened again. Then a final line burned across the black wolf throne. The cage breaker has entered. Return the first oath to its owner. Name who caged her first. The court forgot Nerya Vale in pieces. The cage remembered her whole. That was what made the silver beneath her feet burn without closing. Not pain. Recognition. Every bar around her trembled as if the cage had been waiting years for a prisoner who did not remember being imprisoned the first time. Return the first oath to its owner. Name who caged her first. The words glowed across the black wolf throne, bright enough to turn Ronan Veyr's face into a mask of silver and shadow. The bars wrapped around his throne tightened once, not around his body, but around the seat of authority that had allowed the oath to exist. Nerya looked down at her wrists. Old scars she had never understood began to shine. Not the fresh silver bruises from tonight. Older, thinner, half-moon cuts, circling both wrists, almost hidden beneath years of work and hunger. As a child, she had thought they were birthmarks. Later, when servants forgot her injuries faster than they healed, she had stopped asking questions no one could remember hearing. Now the cage remembered for them. Her collarbone burned next, The crescent mark beneath her skin opened like a cold eye. Meryn Thorn struck his moonstone staff against the floor. Seal the record. Ronan turned on him. Stop. But Nerya lifted one hand. No. The word startled the court because it was not aimed at the council. It was aimed at the king. Ronan still. Nerya kept her eyes on Meryn. Let him try. Meryn's mouth tightened. Nerya stepped fully out of the open cage. The silver bars parted for her without sound. The cage remembers owners. For the first time, Meryn looked at her not like cursed blood, not like a servant, but like something he had once expected to stay buried. Good. Let him remember badly. The cage floor brightened under her bare feet. Nerya forced her voice steady. Who owned my first oath? The silver cage answered by opening its hidden record. Not a book. Not a scroll. A scent. The moon court disappeared under a wave of cold milk, iron cradles, rain on nursery stone, and a child crying so hard her breath broke. Nerya staggered as the memory rose around her, building itself out of silver bars and moonlight. She was small, too small to understand court robes or prison law. A nursery record chamber opened around her. Pale walls, low silver lamps, a cradle with no blanket, and a circle of council scribes standing around a little girl whose dark hair stuck to wet cheeks. No one touched her gently. No one called her by name. A thin silver collar lay open on the floor beside her. The child kept crying. No one heard. Or worse, they heard, and the oath taught them not to keep the sound. Adult Nerya pressed both hands to her mouth. The memory child reached toward a woman standing beyond the silver line. A nurse, perhaps. Someone whose face blurred every time Nerya tried to recognize her. The woman was weeping. Then Meryn stepped into the memory. Younger but unmistakable, silver hair darker, moonstone staff newly carved. Begin extraction, he said. A scribe hesitated. She is too young. The younger the bond. Memory, Meryn replied. The cleaner the removal. The silver collar closed around the child's throat. Nerya's own breath vanished. In the present, she clawed at her collarbone, but there was no collar there, only the crescent mark burning cold. The cage memory continued. Name. Partially retained. Scent. Partially removed. Bond. Unstable. Pack memory. Reduced. Survival. Unexpected. Meryn's face sharpened in the memory. She survived. Another counselor whispered. The cage failed. No, Meryn said. It failed to digest her. The words struck the present court like a blade. Nerya swayed. So that was what she was. Not cursed. Not corrupted. Not born wrong. She was what the cage failed to erase. The cage had not taken enough to kill her. Only enough to make the world unreliable. Her curse was not corruption. It was the scar left by stolen memory. The memory child stopped crying. Not because she was comforted, because the room had forgotten the sound. Nerya felt something crack inside her so quietly no one else could hear it. They called her forgettable because remembering her would have proved the crime. The nursery faded, but the scent remained. Milk, iron, rain, fear. Ronan stood at the edge of the vision, face pale beneath his controlled stillness. The stolen mate bonds that had flooded the hall still stirred around him, and one thread of scent cut through the rest faint cedar under winter snow. Old and unfinished. He inhaled once. Too sharply. Nerya saw it. So did Meryn. The counselor moved quickly. Childhood cage claims are lawful under emergency moon protection. The girl carried unstable blood. Her extraction saved the court from a future corruption. Nerya turned to him. You stole my name before I knew how to defend it. We contained what you might become. You made the world forget me. Meryn's eyes chilled. And still not enough. The silver bars around Ronan's throne tightened again. Ronan's voice came low. How many children? Meryn did not answer. The cage did. The hidden names on the inner bars flared brighter. Some were adult names. Some were small. Too small. Hundreds of prison oaths layered through years of moon law. True mates removed from heirs. Lower-born bond scents stripped from noble wolves. Inconvenient girls erased from pack memory before anyone could claim them. Ronan stepped toward the cage records. Nerya moved before she thought. Do not. He stopped. The court froze at her tone. Nerya's chest hurt, but her voice did not shake. Do not reach for what your silence helped erase. Ronan's expression tightened. Good. Let it hurt him too. I did not know it was you, he said. The words came quietly. They should not have mattered. They did. Nerya hated that. You knew it was someone. The cage pulsed. Ronan lowered his eyes, not in surrender, but because truth had found the place beneath his armor. Yes, that was not forgiveness. It was not enough. But it was the first answer he had not tried to make royal. Merrin's voice sharpened. Your Majesty, the cage is corrupting your judgment. True mate bonds are dangerous when left ungoverned. They make heirs refuse alliances. They make alpha blood choose servants over treaty brides. They make kings weak. Ronan looked at him slowly. You used the cage to choose mates. Merrin's face did not change. That was answer. The cage gave the rest. Silver light spread across the floor, forming pairs of broken scent lines. One scent ripped from one body, another assigned in its place. Lawful cage mates, council-approved bonds, marriages that smelled clean because the true scent had been swallowed first. A noblewoman sobbed. A warrior whispered a forgotten name and fell to his knees. Nerya stood in the center of it. Not chosen, not crowned, not healed. Remembered. The first oath beneath her feet burned hotter. Return the first oath to its owner. She swallowed hard. Show me. Merrin lunged forward. No. The cage ignored him. A silver line rose from Nerya's scars, crossed the open cage, and struck the black wolf throne. The throne answered, not with Ronan's voice, with old royal moon script. The first oath opened. Nerya expected her own name. Instead, the cage showed an owner's mark stamped beneath the oath. Not Merrin's staff. Not the council seal. The mark belonged to the throne itself. Ronan stared at it. So did Nerya. The first oath returned to its owner, and the name it carried was not Nerya's. It was Ronan's. Not as a mate. As an owner. The first oath did not call Ronan her mate. It called him owner. The word lived beneath the moon script like a hand pressed to the back of a child's neck. Ronan Veyr, owner of first prison oath. Whispers broke through the moon court. Scandal. Curse. Mate. Nerya turned on them so sharply the silver floor flashed beneath her bare feet. Do not make theft sound like fate. The hall went still. Ronan stood beside the cage throne, silver light cutting across his face. He did not move toward her. Good. If he had, she might have hated him for needing comfort, while her stolen childhood burned open between them. Merrin seized the confusion. This proves the danger, Your Majesty. The girl's corrupted bond memory has attached itself to your name. This is why the cage exists, to prevent false mate claims from destabilizing royal blood. Nerya laughed once. It sounded too sharp in the judgment hall. You hear owner and call it romance? The silver cage pulsed. Fate did not bind them. Law did. And law had teeth. Ronan's voice came low. Clarify the oath. The silver bars around the throne tightened. Not enough to wound. Enough to refuse. Moon script burned across the black stone. The owner may not define the oath. Ronan accepted the rebuke without speaking. Nerya stepped closer to the open cage records. Then I will ask. Merrin moved. No. A silver bar snapped from the throne, crossed the floor, and locked around his ankle. He froze with his moonstone staff raised halfway. Nerya did not look away from the records. What did Ronan's name own? The cage opened another memory. This one smelled of winter stone, royal blood, and cedar smoke. A boy stood in the center of the judgment hall years ago, tall but not yet hardened into the Alpha King. 16, perhaps. His hands were clenched at his sides, his silver-gray eyes fixed on the silver cage, with hatred he did not understand. Beside him stood the old Alpha King, Ronan's father. The old king placed one hand on his son's shoulder. Your name will anchor the first oath. A prince must learn that private wanting cannot outweigh pack survival. Young Ronan's jaw tightened. Whose oath? A necessary one. That is not an answer. It is the only answer a king is owed before he becomes king. Behind them, younger Merron watched in silence. A small silver thread lay coiled inside a moonglass bowl. No to Shane. A scent. A stolen bond memory. The old king dipped 2 fingers into the bowl and pressed them to Ronan's name on the oath plate. The silver thread shuddered, then sank into the royal script. Young Ronan staggered. His hand flew to his chest. What was that? The old king said. A lesson. Mehran said. An anchor. The memory shattered. Nerya returned to the hall with one hand pressed to her collarbone. The scent lingered. Cedar under winter snow. Old. Unfinished. Ronan had gone very still. Nerya looked at Mehran. You used his name as legal owner. Mehran's voice strained as the silver bar tightened around his ankle. The crown owns prison oaths. The prince's name was lawful anchor. Without royal authority, the cage could not hold unstable bonds safely. Safely for whom? For the kingdom. The cage hissed. Kingdom cracked apart in silver fire and reformed into another word. Control. Nerya's scars burned brighter. She forced herself to keep standing. What did you anchor in me? Mehran's face changed. Barely. Enough, the cage answered. Silver lines opened across the floor, thin as hair, each carrying pieces of names, scents, mate calls, wolf pulse, grief, first recognition, and broken memory. One line entered the nursery where child Nerya had cried unheard. Another entered the bowl in Ronan's memory. Then dozens more. Then hundreds. Nerya understood slowly, with a horror too cold for tears. Her missing memory was not only hers. She had been made into storage. Not by choice. Not by destiny. Bila. The cage had hidden what it stole inside children no one would remember long enough to defend. That was why rooms forgot her. That was why voices slipped away from her name. That was why silver felt like being opened from the inside. She was not cursed. She was crowded. Ronan's voice roughened. How many? The cage did not answer with a number. It answered with scent. The hall flooded. Rose ash. River moss. Smoke. Pine. Rain on stone. Blood-warm fur. Broken mate memories circled the court. Noble wolves cried out as lost pieces returned close enough to hurt, but not close enough to heal. A noble bride collapsed, whispering a lower-born man's name. An old commander clutched his throat. I had a mate. A young princess backed away from her council-approved husband as if waking beside a stranger. Mehran shouted over them. You see? Chaos. Ungoverned bonds ruin alliances. They make wolves choose feeling over duty. Nerya turned toward him. No, she said. They make theft harder to bless. The cage blazed. Ronan looked at the broken scent lines, then at Nerya. Something moved behind his eyes. Not claim. Not certainty. Not hunger dressed as destiny. Recognition of damage. And fear of what he might want from it. I have searched for that scent since I was 16, he said quietly. The hall heard. Nerya hated that her heart reacted. Cedar under winter snow. The cage pulsed between them. She lifted one hand before he could step closer. No. Ronan stopped. Do not turn this into something beautiful because it hurts less than calling it ownership. His jaw tightened. I will not. Mehran laughed bitterly. He cannot help it. That is why the cage had to hold it. Royal heirs with true mate scent become impossible to steer. Nerya's eyes sharpened. There. Not confirmation. Motive. You were steering him. We were preserving him. The cage rejected the word. Preserving became editing. The silver bar around Mehran's ankle climbed to his knee. Ronan turned toward the caged throne. Who ordered the anchor? Mehran's smile returned, thin and cruel. Ask carefully, Your Majesty. Some oaths protect children from truths their fathers knew they could not survive. The cage dimmed. Not fear. Depth. Nerya felt the first oath pull beneath her feet. Deeper than Mehran's office. Deeper than the council's seal. Into the black stone below the throne. The throne opened. A hidden chamber of moonscript unfolded beneath it. At the center, a child's oath plate glowed. 2 names were burned into it. One was Ronan's. The other was not Nerya's. It was the name of the first true mate the cage had ever erased. And when the cage returned that first bond memory to Nerya, The scent that filled the hall was the one Ronan had been searching for since he was 16. But it did not prove she was his. It proved someone had hidden what he wanted inside her. Nerya felt the court waiting to turn theft into destiny again. The court wanted the scent to mean mate. Nerya knew better. Stolen things often smelled like destiny when returned to the wrong hands. Cedar under winter snow filled the moon court until every wolf turned toward her, as if she had become the answer to a question no one dared ask aloud. The scent curled around the silver bars, brushed the black wolf throne, trembled against Ronan's stillness, and settled nearest to Nerya's skin. Not because it belonged to her, because someone had hidden it inside her. She felt the court waiting for the easier story. A servant girl carrying the Alpha King's lost scent. A cursed girl revealed as fate. A scandal soft enough to swallow the crime. Nerya lifted her chin. "No," she said. "This is evidence, not fate." Ronan did not move. That was the first mercy he gave her. Not protection, not apology. Restraint. Meron struck before restraint could become truth. If the king's true scent is inside her, then she is royal contamination. A servant body carrying royal bond memory must be confined until the council determines whether she is vessel, fraud, or threat. The silver cage hissed. Ronan turned slowly. "No one names her for me." The hall went cold. Nerya looked at him despite herself. He did not look redeemed. He looked angry enough to break every law in the room, and afraid enough to know that careless breaking was how men like Meron built cages. Meron's jaw tightened. "Your judgment is compromised. My judgment was compromised when my name was used to own a child's prison oath." The silver bars around the throne loosened by a breath. Not forgiveness. Recognition. Nerya felt it under her feet. The cage did not want Ronan absolved. It wanted him accurate. She turned to the hidden oath plate beneath the throne. 2 names burned there. Ronan's first. The second blurred every time she tried to hold it, as if the name itself had learned to hide. "Show the other name," Nerya said. Meron's face sharpened. "No." The cage tightened the bar around his knee. Silver light gathered over the oath plate. The second name flickered, then collapsed into scent instead of letters. Chidar. Winter snow. A girl laughing once before fear cut the sound away. The memory opened. Not in the judgment hall. In a moonlit training yard 16 years ago, young Ronan stood near a wolfstone arch. Sleeves rolled to his elbows. One hand braced against the wall as if he had shifted too hard and returned wrong. His wolf shadow paced behind him, large even then, silver, black, and restless. Across the yard, a lower-born girl held a basket of torn training cloths. She was not noble. That much was clear from the plainness of her dress and the way she lowered her eyes when guards passed. Then young Ronan looked at her. His whole body went still. Not possession. Recognition. The girl looked up. For one heartbeat, the entire memory changed scent. Cedar under winter snow. Young Ronan took one step toward her. The girl stepped back, not afraid of him, afraid of the guards already turning. A council scribe saw them. Then Meron appeared at the edge of the yard. The memory cut forward. A moon-glass bowl. A silver thread pulled from the air. The girl on her knees, shaking, mouth open around a name the memory refused to let anyone hear. Young Ronan behind a locked door, slamming his shoulder into it hard enough to bleed, shouting without sound because the cage had already begun removing sound from the record. Then the silver thread was lifted. Stored. Carried away. The memory shifted again. A child cried in a nursery record chamber. Nerya, too young to understand what was being placed inside her. The stolen scent sank into her small body like winter poured into a cup with no choice but to hold it. The memory vanished. Nerya stumbled, hand flying to her throat. For one terrifying second, she felt the lower-born girl's fear inside her, not as a story, as a breath that had never been released. Ronan's voice was rough. "Where is she?" The cage dimmed. Meron closed his eyes for half a breath. That was answer enough to frighten everyone. Ronan stepped toward the oath plate. "Where is the girl?" The cage burned its answer into the floor. Record. Body unclaimed. Scent stored. Name removed. The words were so clean they felt obscene. Body unclaimed meant no grave had been allowed to know her. Scent stored meant the bond had not died. Name removed meant the kingdom had made forgetting into law. Ronan's hands curled into fists. Nerya saw violence rise in him. Old royal alpha violence. The kind that could satisfy a room and ruin a record. He looked at Meron as if every bone in his body wanted to end him. Nerya stepped between them, not to protect Meron, to protect the truth from becoming blood before it finished speaking. Ronan stopped instantly. "Do not make him a corpse before the cage makes him a witness," she said. Meron laughed under his breath, though the silver around his knee trembled. "Listen to Her Majesty. The vessel learns quickly. Veshel." The word struck harder than curse. Storage. Container. A place to put things powerful people did not want to lose and did not want to honor. The cage pulsed beneath her. Meron smiled when he felt it. If that first bond memory returns incorrectly, it will tear through every stored scent inside her. Her name is not alone. Nothing inside her is alone. Nerya already knew. She could feel them now. Not clearly. Not enough to name. But enough to know her body had never been empty. Fragments stirred beneath her skin. A bride's last breath before forgetting the man she loved. A warrior's wolf. Call cut in half. A servant girl's hand reaching through silver bars. A child's scent tied to a treaty before she could speak. The court had called her forgettable because she carried too many things they needed forgotten. Ronan said her name softly. Nerya. She hated the way it sounded when he remembered it. "No," she said without turning. "Do not look at me like I am what was taken from you." Silence answered. Then Ronan said, "You are not." The words landed carefully. Not claim. Not cure. A boundary. The cage accepted it with a low silver hum. Meron did not. "If she is not the lost mate, then she is worse," he said. "She is a living archive of unlawful bonds. Every scent inside her can destabilize a marriage. A treaty. A bloodline. A throne." Nerya looked at the hidden oath plate. "Then the first name matters." Meron's eyes darkened. Ronan saw it too. Nerya stepped toward the cage records. If her name was removed, where did it go? The cage did not answer. Her scars burned. The crescent mark under her collarbone opened wider, silver light tracing up her throat. Meron shook his head once. "Do not ask that." Nerya almost laughed. Of course. That was where names went when the cage could not destroy them. Into the only thing it had failed to digest. Here. The first erased mate's scent stirred inside her chest, like a wolf waking behind a locked door. Nerya pressed both hands to her throat. "No," she whispered. But the cage had already begun returning what law had hidden. Silver light climbed her neck. Ronan took one step toward her, then stopped himself with visible effort. Good. Let him learn not every pain was his to touch. The hidden oath plate cracked. A voice rose from inside Nerya. Not hers. Not completely. A girl's voice. Lower born and terrified, wrapped in Nerya's breath. The court listened. Meron went white. The first erased mate's name rose from Nerya's throat, in Nerya's own voice. The name came out wrong because the cage had taught it to wear Nerya's voice. Aveline Rook. 2 words. Soft. Lower born. Terrified. They left Nerya's throat as if they had lived there for years. Curled behind her own name. Waiting for silver to make enough room. The moon court did not move. Ronan did. Only one step. Then he stopped himself so hard the restraint looked painful. Aveline Rook. The scent of cedar under winter snow trembled around the name, and something broke across Ronan's face before he buried it. Not love. Not certainty. Something older and less useful. A wound recognizing the shape of the blade that made it. Nerya pressed both hands to her throat. That was not mine. The silver cage hummed beneath her feet. Meron's face had gone pale, but he recovered faster than fear deserved. A stored name spoken through an unstable vessel is not valid testimony. Nerya looked at him. Vessel, she repeated. The word tasted like iron. He lifted his chin. That is the legal condition your body now proves. You are not a witness. You are storage. The cage hissed. Nerya felt it before the words appeared. Storage is theft with a cleaner name. A few nobles flinched. Meron did not. Pretty moon script does not change law, he said. If the first erased mate's body is unclaimed, Her name cannot return to a lawful person. If the name remains in this girl, then this girl becomes the claimant, a false claimant to a royal bond. The court understood the trap before Nerya did. She saw it pass through their faces. If Avelin's name stayed inside her, Mehran could call Nerya a fraud. If she released the name without a body, he could call it corrupted evidence. If Ronan reacted to the scent, they could call her royal contamination. Every road ended in another cage. Ronan's voice cut low through the hall. No one will call her a false claimant. Mehran turned to him. Then where is Aveline Rook? Silence answered. That was Mehran's victory. Nerya felt Ronan's grief like heat near a closed door. Not reaching for her, not touching her, but there. She hated how much she noticed. Ask the cage, Ronan said. Mehran smiled. The cage already answered. Body unclaimed. Name removed. Nerya lowered her hands from her throat. No, she said. It answered what you wrote, not what happened. The silver beneath her feet brightened. Ronan looked at her then, and for once there was no command in his eyes, only attention. Nerya turned toward the open records. Where did you hide her body from the cage? Mehran's smile faded. The question struck deeper than the last. The silver cage opened again. This memory smelled of wet leaves, cold stone, and a wolf running without sound. Aveline Rook appeared in moonlight. Older than the girl in the training yard, but still young enough that fear looked wrong on her face. Her dark hair was cut unevenly. Her plain dress was torn at one sleeve. She ran through a corridor beneath the royal kennels. One hand pressed to her chest as if trying to hold her own scent inside her body. Behind her, guards carried silver nets. Mehran walked after them slowly, not chasing because men like him never had to hurry when law ran ahead of them. Aveline reached a locked gate and shook it once. Please, she whispered. No one opened it. A young Ronan appeared on the other side. Not fully. Not freely. He was behind another set of bars, held back by 2 royal guards and his father's command. Blood marked one side of his mouth. He had fought to reach her. Aveline saw him. For one breath. The scent filled the memory so strongly. Nerya's knees weakened. Cedar under winter snow. Ronan's younger voice broke through the record. Open the gate. The old Alpha King's voice answered from behind him. This is why she must be removed. Aveline lifted one hand toward Ronan. Then silver nets fell over her. The memory fractured. Nerya gasped as the scene changed. A moon record chamber. Aveline strapped to a silver table, not bleeding, not dead, but being erased with a precision worse than violence. Scribes stood around her with bowls of moon glass. One bowl took scent, one took name, one took first recognition, one took the sound of Ronan saying her name. Aveline turned her head. For one impossible second, her eyes looked straight at Nerya through the memory. Do not let him call this mercy, Aveline whispered. Mehran stepped between them and the record cut black. The present returned with a sharp silver crack. Ronan was breathing like a man holding back a shift. Nerya stared at Mehran. She was alive when you removed her. Mehran's expression hardened. She was a lower-born instability attached to the future king. A boy's attachment could have destroyed 3 alliances. A girl is not instability. She was leverage. The cage burned white. Leverage became person. Nerya felt Aveline's name tremble in her throat. Not trying to own her, trying to be heard. Ronan spoke without looking away from Mehran. Where is she? Mehran's answer came too smoothly. Gone. The cage rejected it. Gone split open. Hidden. The hall went silent. Nerya's pulse hit her throat. Ronan's wolf shadow rose behind him, vast and silver black, its eyes fixed on Mehran. For the first time, the shadow did not look like royal power. It looked like a beast that had been starved of one truth for half its life. Where? Ronan asked. Mehran lifted his staff, but the cage had already begun reading the metal in it. Silver script crawled up the moonstone shaft and exposed hidden marks beneath the polished surface. Not council runes, not prison law. Transfer marks. Nerya read them as the cage pushed meaning into her bones. A name removed from body. A body removed from record. A record removed from court. A court allowed to forget. The staff cracked. Inside it, something small and pale rattled. A moon-glass bead rolled out and struck the floor. Aveline's scent flooded the hall. Ronan flinched as if struck. Nerya did not touch the bead. She knew better now. "What is it?" she asked. The cage answered. "Body claim token. Not death. Not release. Suspension." Nerya's stomach turned. Aveline had not been buried. Not freed. Not properly killed. Suspended. Held somewhere between body and record so no grave, pack, or mate could claim her. Meron's voice dropped. "Some lives are too dangerous to return." Ronan's hand closed around the hilt of his sword. Nerya stepped in front of him again. This time he almost did not stop. Then he did. Barely. Nerya looked at the bead on the floor. If this is her body claim, can it lead to her? The cage pulsed once. Yes. Meron's lips parted. Then he smiled. Too late, Nerya understood that some answers were doors, and some doors were bait. The moon-glass bead cracked open. Silver light shot from it. Not toward Meron. Not toward Ronan. But toward Nerya's chest. The name inside her answered. Aveline Rook. The floor beneath Nerya opened into a circle of silver bars. Ronan moved. The cage stopped him with one word across the throne. Owner cannot enter archive claim. Nerya looked down as silver climbed around her, not closing like a prison, but opening like a lock built from inside her ribs. Meron's smile returned. "To find the first erased mate," he said softly. "The archive must open." Nerya felt every stolen scent inside her wake at once. And somewhere far below the moon court, a woman who should have been dead whispered back through the silver, "I remember him." The moon glass beneath Nerya's feet cracked before the buried voice finished speaking. Silver lines split outward from the archive circle, running under the court like frozen lightning. Every stolen scent inside Nerya stirred at once. Rose, ash, river moss, pine smoke, rain-soaked fur, a warrior's half-call, a bride's last remembered kiss. A child's first pack scent cut away before she could name it. They pressed against her skin from within, not trying to escape through flesh, trying to escape through memory. The silver cage was not closing around her. It was opening her as an archive. Nerya staggered, one hand flying to her collarbone. The crescent mark burned so cold her breath came white. Ronan stepped forward. The throne flashed. "Owner cannot enter archive claim." He stopped as if the words had struck bone. Meron's smile sharpened. "There. Even the cage knows the king cannot touch what his name owns." Ronan's wolf shadow rose behind him, silver black and enormous, claws digging into moonlit marble. "I do not own her," the cage answered before Meron could. "Not yet renounced." The words carved themselves across the bars wrapped around the throne. Nerya looked at Ronan. So did the court. That was the cruelty. Not accusation. Precision. The cage did not care what Ronan felt. It cared what law still held under his name. Ronan stared at the words as if they had opened a wound beneath his ribs. "What must be renounced?" he asked. Meron laughed once. "Careful, Majesty. Renounce the wrong thing, and every cage-bound bond under royal authority becomes unstable." Another scent memory pushed through Nerya. A lower-born man kneeling outside a noble bride's chamber. A princess crying into a silver veil. A wolf pup reaching for a mother whose scent had been legally reassigned. None of them fully formed. All of them hurting. "Do not ask him," Nerya said. Ronan's eyes came to her. She forced herself upright inside the inner silver. "Ask the cage." The silver cage hummed. Ronan turned to the throne. "What must I renounce to enter as witness, not owner?" The bars tightened around the black wolf throne until the carved wolf heads groaned. Moonscript burned slowly. "Renounce royal claim over unconsented bond memory." Meron went still. That was the first honest fear he had shown. "Your Majesty," he said softly. "Do not." Ronan did not look at him. Nerya did. "Why?" she asked. Meron's eyes flicked to her, cold and venomous. "Because if he renounces royal claim, every alliance built from cage, approved bonds can be challenged. Marriages, blood treaties, airlines, peace accords. The kingdom will remember what it was forced to forget." The cage pulsed. "Kingdom will remember." Ronan's voice lowered. "Then let it." Meron struck his staff against the floor. You speak like a wounded boy, not a king. Ronan finally turned to him. No, he said. I speak like a king who has discovered his throne was fed with stolen wanting. The silver bars around the throne shivered. Nerya felt the archive inside her paws. Waiting, Ronan lifted his right hand. Not toward her. Toward the throne. I renounce royal claim over any bond memory taken without consent under my name, my father's name, or the authority of the Veyr throne. The moon court split open in sound. Not screaming, howling. Every wolf in the hall felt it. Bonds shuddered. Council-approved mates clutched each other or recoiled from each other. Old perfumes burned away. False scents loosened like old bandages, soaked in moonlight. The silver bars around Ronan's throne snapped backward. One be one. The last bar did not fall. It turned. It slid across the floor toward Ronan and stopped at his feet, reshaping itself into a narrow silver chain. Not a shackle. A witness line. The cage rope beneath it. Owner may enter only by pain, not claim. Ronan picked up the chain. It burned him instantly. Silver smoke rose from his palm. His jaw tightened, but he did not drop it. Nerya felt the change at once. The pressure inside her eased by a breath. Not enough to free her. Enough to let one memory form cleanly. Aveline Rook. The archive opened below. The floor beneath Nerya became transparent silver. Far under the moon court, beneath stone, root, and old moon water, lay a chamber filled with suspended bodies of light. Not dead. Not living properly. Each figure floated inside a cage-shaped sleep, wrapped in silver thread, their names folded beneath their tongues. At the center was a young woman with dark, uneven hair. Aveline. Her eyes were open. Ronan took one step onto the witness line. Pain crossed his face like a blade. Nerya felt it through the cage, not as comfort but as proof. The cage was making him pay to look at what his authority had protected. Aveline's gaze lifted first to Ronan, then to Nerya. And I remember you, she whispered. Nerya's breath stopped. The archive around her went silent. I was a child, Nerya said. I did not know. Aveline's suspended face softened. No, you held what they put in you. That is not the same as taking. Something inside Nerya nearly broke. Meron moved fast. Too fast for a man caught in silver. He tore the cracked bead from the floor with the end of his staff and slammed it against the marble. A tremor shot through the archive. The sleeping bodies below flickered. Aveline's face twisted in pain. Ronan surged forward, but the witness chain burned brighter, forcing him to one knee before he could reach the edge. Meron's voice rang through the hall. If the archive destabilizes, all stored bonds will rupture. Everybody below will become nameless evidence. Every scent inside the cage breaker will tear itself free. Nerya understood. He could not stop the cage from remembering now, so he would break the archive before it could testify. The silver inside her ribs sharpened. One by one, the stored scents began clawing toward her throat. Aveline looked up through the transparent floor. Do not open all of us. Nerya shook her head, trembling. Then how do I save you? Aveline's eyes moved to Ronan. Make him witness the first one. Ronan lifted his head. Blood had begun to bead where the silver chain burned his palm. I will. Meron smiled. He cannot witness what he once owned. Nerya looked at the cage. The cage looked back without eyes. Then moonscript burned around her feet. The cage breaker may reverse one owner into witness. Price required. Nerya felt the price before the cage named it. A memory. Hers. Not stolen. Hers. The first time someone had remembered her kindly. The old kitchen woman who used to leave a bowl of milk near the ash steps and never asked why Nerya cried beside it. A small, useless memory. A warm one. The cage wanted it. Nerya closed her eyes, then gave it. The memory burned out of her like a candle pinched between wet fingers. She forgot the old woman's face. But Ronan's witness chain turned white. The silver line pulled him forward into the archive claim. Meron shouted, No! Too late. Ronan crossed the threshold. Aveline's suspended cage cracked. And the first thing released was not her body. It was the memory of Ronan's father ordering her name buried under Nerya's skin. The silver floor cracked under the weight of a memory no king had been meant to survive. Not a vision. A verdict. The archive pulled Ronan fully into the first erased bond, and for one breath, the Alpha King stood no longer in the moon court, but in the hidden room where his father had made a girl disappear. Nerya saw it through the cage because the cage had opened her as witness. Old King Nerya Vale stood beside the silver table, broad and gray-eyed, wearing the black crown Ronan now carried. Meryn stood at his right hand with the moonstone staff. Between them, Aveline Rook lay bound in silver thread, alive, terrified, and still trying to turn her head toward the locked door where young Ronan shouted her name. Alaric did not look at her face. That was the first cruelty. He looked only at the bowl where her scent had been gathered. "Bury the name under the storage, child," he said. "Leave the scent usable. Leave the body unclaimed." Aveline's lips trembled. "Please." The old king finally looked at her. "There is no cruelty in removing a bond that would make a prince choose below his blood." Aveline's eyes filled with tears. Not because she was weak, because she understood that a man with power had mistaken her life for a lesson. Meryn dipped his quill into moon-silver ink. "By royal prison oath, first true recognition is removed from the heir's path and transferred into lawful storage." Young Ronan's voice broke through the locked door. "Aveline!" The sound made the silver thread shake. Ronan, grown now, standing inside the memory, flinched as if his own younger voice had cut him. Nerya felt it through the witness line. He had not forgotten because he wanted to. He had been made to forget because remembering would have made him disobedient. That did not wash his name clean. It only showed where the dirt had begun. Old King Alaric pressed his blood ring against the oath plate. The ring left a mark beneath Ronan's name. Royal heir anchor confirmed. Then he turned toward the nursery record chamber visible through a silver mirror. A very small Nerya cried there, held down by women who were careful not to look at her long enough to love her. "Use the forgotten one," Alaric said. "No house will challenge what no one remembers." The memory shattered back into the moon court. Ronan staggered as if the floor had moved under him. The witness chain burned white around his hand. Blood slid between his fingers and struck the silver floor. Nerya did not pity him. She could not afford to. Her own breath came in pieces. The archive inside her had opened too wide, and the stored sense pressed upward, all wanting to be witnessed now that the first truth had split the cage. Meryn spoke before anyone else could. "There," he said. "You have seen the old king's wisdom. The heir was protected. The kingdom was protected. The girl lived. The storage child lived. Nothing was wasted." Nerya turned toward him slowly. "Nothing was wasted," she repeated. The words were so ugly they seemed to stain the moonlight. Meryn lifted his chin. "A harsh structure is not always an unjust one," the silver cage answered. It did not write. It screamed. Every bar in the hall vibrated at once, and the suspended bodies beneath the transparent floor trembled in their silver sleep. Aveline's cage cracked wider. The other bodies flickered, their names folded beneath their tongues like trapped moths. Ronan looked at the archive below, then at Nerya. "What happens if only Aveline is released?" Meryn smiled. "Then the first record breaks cleanly. The others remain stable. One tragedy corrected. A kingdom spared." Nerya heard the trap. So did the cage. Aveline's voice rose faintly from below. "No." Nerya looked down. Aveline's eyes were open, but weaker now. "If I leave alone, they will make me proof that the system can be merciful." The words struck Nerya harder than Meryn's cruelty. Because Aveline was right. One rescued girl could become a decoration. One restored name could become a crown's excuse. One returned scent could let the court say the cage had been flawed only once. Meryn's smile thinned. "Listen to her sacrifice. Even the erased girl understands restraint." Aveline turned her face toward Nerya. "Do not let them use me to close the rest." The archive inside Nerya tightened. 100 hidden names pressed against her ribs. She understood then what the cage wanted next. Not all doors opened. Not everybody freed at once. A rule broken. A method exposed. A path made impossible to deny. Nerya placed one hand over the burning crescent at her collarbone. "The first record cannot close as correction." The cage pulsed. She continued, voice rough. "It must open as pattern." Meryn's face changed. Ronan lifted his head. Nerya looked at the suspended bodies below the floor. Aveline Rook was not an accident. She was the first royal proof. If she is witnessed, every oath built from her removal must answer. Moon script sparked around her feet. First record may open as pattern. Price required. Ronan stepped forward at once. Use me. Nerya did not look at him. No. Nerya, no. Her voice cracked but held. Your pain cannot keep buying space inside mine. That silenced him. The cage waited. Nerya felt the price form inside her like a silver knife. A memory again, but not small this time. Not a kitchen kindness. Something deeper. The memory of her own name spoken by herself in childhood, before the cage had made it unreliable. The first time she had ever known she was real without needing anyone else to remember her. Nerya's knees weakened. If she gave that away, she did not know what would remain when she said Nerya Vale. Ronan saw enough. No. Meron smiled. The cage? Breaker learns the cost of breaking cages. Nerya closed her eyes. Then Aveline spoke from below. Share it. Nerya opened her eyes. Aveline lifted one trembling hand inside her cracked silver sleep. Do not pay alone. They made us storage. Make us witnesses. The cage went still. Every suspended body beneath the floor turned slightly toward Nerya. Ronan understood first. Can the stored names carry part of the price? Meron's voice sharpened. They have no legal standing. The cage burned one word across the floor. Remembered. Then another. Standing. Nerya's breath shook. She looked down into the archive. If you take part of the price, it will hurt. Aveline gave the faintest smile. We have been hurting without purpose for years. One by one, silver threads rose from the suspended bodies. Not enough to open them. Enough to touch the pattern around Aveline's record. A bride. A soldier. A nameless child. A servant. A noble heir. Lower-born. High-born. Wolf-strong. Wolf-broken. All of them holding one thin piece of the cost. Nerya still paid the center. She felt her childhood self in the dark, whispering her own name once so she would not vanish. Nerya Vale. The memory burned. For one terrible moment, she forgot how her own name had sounded before pain taught it caution. But the archive took the rest together. The first record opened as pattern. Aveline's silver cage split from throat to heart, and her name unfolded beneath her tongue in clean moonlight. Aveline Rook, true recognition removed by royal order. Around her, other records sparked awake. Not open. Answering. Meron stumbled back as oath after oath lit beneath the floor, each one tied to the first. Ronan's father's blood ring appeared in moon script above the throne. Then the cage revealed the worst line yet. First royal anchor still active. Nerya's breath stopped. Ronan looked toward the black wolf throne. The silver bars around it sank through the stone and pulled something up from beneath the seat. A second oath plate. Older than Ronan's. Stamped with Nerya Veyr's blood ring. And beneath it, written in the same royal hand. If the first record opens, transfer all unstable bonds to the cage breaker. The second oath plate did not pull the archive into Nerya at once. It waited for the dead king's seal to finish waking. That was worse. The plate hung above the black wolf throne, dripping silver light onto the marble. Nerya Veyr's blood ring mark pulsed at its center. Old and royal and still hungry. Beneath it, the command remained bright enough to make every wolf in the hall afraid to blink. Transfer all unstable bonds to the cage breaker. Nerya felt every stored scent beneath the court turn toward her. Not by choice. By command. Aveline's cracked silver sleep flickered below the transparent floor. Around her, other suspended bodies trembled in their cage-shaped rest, each one still holding part of the price they had chosen to share. For one breath they had become witnesses. Alaric's oath wanted to turn them back into cargo. Meron's relief was quiet, but Nerya saw it. He had expected this. You see now, he said. The cage breaker is not a savior. She is containment. A body strong enough to hold what weaker hearts cannot. Nerya looked at him. Do not dress a prison as a purpose. The silver cage hummed beneath her. Ronan stepped toward the oath plate. Witness chain burning white around his hand. If my father wrote this, I renounce it. The plate did not move. Moon script appeared beneath the old seal. The son may renounce inheritance. Only the first blood may unright intent. Ronan's face hardened. My father is dead. Mehron's eyes flickered. Nerya caught it. So did the cage. A silver line dropped from the oath plate, passed through the throne, and sank beneath the floor. Not toward a grave. Toward a root. A hidden law chamber under the moon court, where royal intent had been preserved after death by every judgment spoken above it. Ronan's father was not alive, but his command still was. Nerya swallowed against the silver rising in her throat. Where is the first blood? The cage answered. Under the throne. Ronan turned toward Mehron. You kept my father's oath active. Mehron lifted his chin. Kings die. Thrones continue. The silver cage rode across the marble. Cages continue when no one breaks them. The second oath began pulling. Nerya cried out as the stored scents lurched upward. Aveline's name slammed against her ribs. A bride's grief burned behind her left eye. A child's lost pack scent crawled through her fingers. The transfer had begun slowly, legally, because the dead king's intent still had a path into her body. Ronan moved toward her, then stopped himself, teeth clenched. Tell me what I can do. Nerya could barely breathe. Do not touch me. I know. Do not claim me. I know. Then stop asking like pain makes you useful. That struck him. Hard. Good. He lowered his burned hand. The witness chain tightened. But he did not let go. Nerya looked down through the transparent floor. How do we reach the law chamber? Aveline's faint voice rose from below. Through the first storage scar. Nerya understood before she wanted to. Her wrist scars. The half-moon cuts from childhood. The place the cage had first opened her. Ronan's jaw tightened. No. Nerya looked at him sharply. He bowed his head once. That was not command. It was fear. Then make it useful. She held her scarred wrists over the silver floor. Open the path. The cage hesitated. For the first time it hesitated for her. Then silver lines climbed around her wrists, tracing the old cuts until they opened into light, not blood. Pain flashed bright enough to empty her lungs. Beneath the throne, the hidden root answered. A stairway unfolded from the black marble. Not downward like a dungeon. Inward like a wound. The law chamber breathed cold air into the court. Nerya walked first. Ronan followed at a distance, close enough to witness, far enough not to take. Behind them, Mehron was dragged by the silver bar at his throat, because the cage remembered him as keeper of the records he had edited. The chamber under the throne was round and low, built from moonstone and wolf bone. At its center stood a preserved handprint pressed into silver. Nerya Vayr's blood ring mark, sealed over a basin filled with pale scent threads. Thousands. Not all stored in Nerya. Not yet. The second oath had been designed to make her the final container if the archive ever opened. Nerya stared at the basin. So that is what I was meant to become. Mehron's voice rasped behind her. A solution. A grave for living bonds. A necessary vessel. Ronan said. Say vessel again. And I will forget she told me not to make you a corpse. Mehron went silent. Nerya's attention fixed on the basin, where one scent thread glowed brighter than the rest. Aveline's. It was tied to Ronan's royal mark. Knotted through Nerya's childhood scar. Then bound to Alaric's preserved handprint. Owner. Storage. Einten. To break the transfer, all three had to change. Nerya pressed both wrists to the moonstone. The silver accepted her. Moonscript rose. The storage may refuse final containment. Price required. Nerya closed her eyes. Of course. The price formed inside her. Not a memory this time, but relief. The chance to empty herself at once, and be done with every stolen cent. The cage offered it like mercy. Refuse final containment. And she would still have to carry the archive long enough to free it correctly. Freedom later. Burden now. Nerya laughed once, broken and quiet. They even made escape selfish. Aveline's voice drifted from the basin. You do not have to be empty to be free. Nerya pressed harder. I refuse final containment. The basin cracked. Every scent thread rose. Not into her. Around her. The storage scar reversed. The threads no longer entered her body. They circled her like a silver storm, each one tethered to its own missing record. Mehran stared in horror. Ronan's witness chain burned white-hot. Then Alaric's preserved handprint opened. A dead royal voice filled the chamber. The cage. Breaker cannot refuse what she was bred to hold. Nerya went still. Bred. Not born. Bred. The cage heard the word. The law chamber split beneath Alaric's handprint, and from the hollow below rose a cradle made of silver bars. Inside lay a strip of birth cloth marked with Nerya's infant blood. Beside it, in Alaric Veyr's hand, was the truth the court had forgotten on purpose. Cage breaker line acquired before birth. The silver cradle made no sound when it rose. That silence frightened Nerya more than Alaric's dead voice. The cradle should have creaked. The old birth cloth should have rustled. The moonstone floor should have groaned under the weight of a secret buried before she had ever drawn breath. Instead, the law chamber held perfectly still, as if the kingdom had practiced hiding this for so long that even stone knew how to keep quiet. Nerya stared at the strip of cloth marked with infant blood. Her blood. Not enough to kill. Enough to buy. Ronan's witness chain burned brighter in his hand. He did not step closer. He had learned the shape of that restraint now, but learning did not make it painless. His eyes moved from the cradle to Mehran, then to the preserved handprint of Alaric Veyr. "What does acquired mean?" he asked. The silver cage answered before Mehran could polish the word. "Purchased from bloodline custody." Nerya's breath left her. Purchased. Not rescued. Not protected. Not adopted into law. Purchased. Mehran's throat tightened beneath the silver bar, but his voice remained calm. "Your father used old moon law. Cage. Breaker bloodlines were nearly extinct. Their gift was dangerous, unstable, and impossible to govern without proper custody." Nerya looked at him. "My mother sold me?" Mehran said nothing. That was answer enough to hurt. Then the cage corrected him. "Maternal consent. Absent. Paternal claim. Forged. Royal acquisition approved by King Alaric Veyr." The chamber shifted. A memory opened inside the cradle. Nerya saw a woman with dark hair and tired gray eyes running through a winter corridor with one hand pressed over her swollen belly. She was not noble. She wore a healer's cloak patched at the sleeves, and moon-silver blood stained the hem. Behind her, guards followed with quiet efficiency. Not shouting, not rushing. They did not need to chase what law had already surrounded. The woman reached a side door. Mehran stood there. Younger. Waiting. "No," the woman whispered. "She is not born yet." Mehran held out a parchment. "The father's claim has been transferred. He is dead. Then he cannot contest it." The woman's face twisted. "You forged him." "I preserved what the kingdom required." The memory trembled. Nerya pressed one hand to the cradle, though she knew the image could not feel her. "What was her name?" she whispered. The cage hesitated. Then moon script formed along the cradle rail. Nerya Vale, mother of cage breaker. Nerya closed her eyes. A name. Not a face she remembered. Not a song. Not arms. Only a name, returned in a chamber that had bought her before birth. Her knees almost failed. Ronan moved half a step, then stopped himself again. Nerya heard his restraint like a chain dragged over stone. Mehran watched them both. "If you open maternal record, you destabilize the acquisition. If you destabilize acquisition, the cage breaker's legal standing collapses. Every reversal she made becomes disputable." Nerya looked up. There it was. The next cage. If she asked for her mother, Mehran would call her witness invalid. If she ignored her mother, the law that bought her remained untouched. Every truth had been tied to another wound. Ronan spoke quietly. "Then challenge mine first." Nerya turned to him. He held up the burned witness chain. "My father's authority approved the purchase. My throne inherited the benefit. Use me to break that standing." "No." The answer came from her too fast. His eyes hardened, not with anger but with understanding. "Nerya, no," she said again. "I will not let every truth about me become another wound you can pay for." The cage hummed. Ronan lowered his hand. Mehran smiled faintly. "At last. Wisdom." Nerya turned on him. "No. Accuracy." The word caught the chamber. She stepped toward the preserved handprint. silver storms circling around her instead of entering her. Ronan did not buy me before birth. His father did. You kept the record. The throne inherited it. Those are 3 different crimes. Moonscript flashed. 3 claims identified. Ronan's gaze sharpened. Nerya continued before fear could take her voice. The son can renounce inheritance. The keeper can be made to testify. The dead king's intent must be returned to first blood. Alaric's handprint pulsed. The cradle bars tightened. A dead voice rolled through the chamber. Mine by lawful acquisition. Nerya felt the old claim reach for her blood. Not her body. Her beginning. The storm of scent threads around her shuddered, and every stored bond turned cold. If Alaric's claim closed around her birth, it could pull the archive back into her. Not as burden she chose to carry, as property. Ronan stepped onto the edge of the handprint's light, witness chain burning deep into his palm. I renounce inheritance of the acquisition of Nerya Vale. Unborn child of Nerya Vale. Under my father's seal and my throne's silence. The law chamber shook. The preserved handprint cracked along one finger. Mayroong gasped. The cradle did not open. Nerya understood why. Keep her testimony, she said. Mehron's eyes narrowed. The silver bar at his throat pulled him forward until he stood before the cradle. I will say nothing. The cage wrote beneath his feet. Keeper may refuse speech. Record may read silence. Nerya almost smiled. Mayroon went pale. The moonstone floor opened under his shadow, not his body. His shadow spilled across the chamber like black ink. And inside it, the cage revealed hidden entries. Payments. Signatures. Erased midwives. Forged paternal marks. A sealed note from Alaric ordering the unborn cage breaker line preserved for future containment. Then one final entry burned brighter. Infant delivered. Mother status. Unrecorded. Nerya's breath stopped. Unrecorded. Not dead. Not buried. Not released. Removed from record. Just like Avalon. Nerya Vale, Nerya said, voice shaking. Where is she? Mehron closed his eyes. Ronan looked at the cage. The answer formed slowly. Maternal body claim. Held in lower archive. Nerya felt the chamber tilt. Her mother was below. Not memory. Claim. The preserved handprint split another finger. Alaric's dead voice sharpened. The child belongs to the cage. Nerya looked at the cradle. At the birth cloth. At the blood that had been used to buy her before she had breath. No, she said. The silver storm around her flared. I was not born to hold stolen bonds. The cage answered. Then what were you born to do? The question did not appear in script. It rose inside every bar, every scent, every scar. Nerya looked at Aveline's thread. At Ronan's burned hand. At Mehron's red shadow. At the cradle that had mistaken purchase for origin. Then she knew. Return them, she said. Not to me. Not to the throne. To the moment before law touched them. The chamber went silent. Even Mehron seemed afraid to breathe. Moon script burned around the cradle. Cagebreaker function recognized. Not containment. Reversal. The cradle opened. Nerya's birth cloth lifted into the silver storm and unfolded like a small, wounded banner. Her infant blood glowed once, then separated from Alaric's mark. The preserved handprint screamed. The first blood had been challenged. Not destroyed. Opened. Beneath it, a deeper stairway appeared, spiraling into moonlit dark. From below came hundreds of sleeping breaths, and one woman's voice, hoarse from years of being unrecorded, whispered Nerya's name as if she had never forgotten it. The deeper stairway opened like the kingdom's oldest apology. No one moved first. Not Ronan. Not Mehron. Not the stolen bonds circling Nerya like a silver storm. For one breath, the law chamber stood between the cradle that had bought her and the darkness that had kept her mother. Then the silver cage sent one thin bar of light down the stairway, and the breaths below answered. Hundreds of them. Not ghosts. Bodies held outside record. Nerya descended first. The stairs were narrow, carved from moonstone and lined with silver bars turned inward over the years, not to keep people from escaping, but to keep the world from remembering they existed. Each step pulled at the storage scars on her wrists. Each breath brought another scent close enough to recognize and too broken to name. Ronan followed 3 steps behind. Witness chain burned into his palm. Meryn was dragged after them by the silver bar at his throat. The lower archive waited beneath the throne, like a buried city of silenced lives. Bodies floated in vertical cages of moonlight, suspended between sleep and witness. Some wore noble jewels. Some had servant scars on their hands. All of them had names folded away from the world. At the center stood a woman with dark hair streaked silver and gray eyes that were open. Waiting. Nerya stopped. The silver storm around her stilled. Nerya Vale pressed one hand against the inside of her cage. Nerya could not speak. She had spent her life being forgotten by rooms, hands, voices, and every person who heard her then lost the memory of doing it. But this woman looked at her as if years had sharpened remembrance instead of weakening it. Meryn laughed softly behind them. Maternal claim cannot restore legal origin. She was unrecorded before the birth purchase completed. The cage turned one bar toward him. He stopped. Nerya stepped closer. Can you hear me? Mira's mouth moved slowly. Yes. The word cracked something open in Nerya's chest. Mira's eyes filled. But no tears fell. They could take record. They could take scent. They could take witness. They could not make me forget my own child. The lower archive hummed. Meryn snarled. Maternal memory has no standing under cage law. Nerya did not turn. It does now. The silver cage pulsed. Maternal memory claims origin. Alaric's preserved handprint screamed from the chamber above. The dead king's intent reached through the stairway, trying to close around the freed birthcloth again. Ronan staggered as the witness chain dragged him toward his father's old authority. Meryn smiled through pain. If the king's blood falters, the old intent restores itself. The archive returns to containment. The cage, breaker, becomes what she was acquired to be. Nerya looked at Ronan. He was on one knee now, one hand braced against the floor, his silver-black wolf shadow shaking behind him. He looked up at her, not asking to be saved, asking to be used correctly. Ronan Veyr, Nerya said. Do you witness Nerya Vale as my mother? His voice was rough. I witness. Do you witness that Alaric Veyr forged paternal claim? I witness. Do you witness that the Veyr throne inherited theft? His eyes held hers. I witness. The chain burned white. Alaric's handprint cracked above them. Nerya turned to Mira. Do you claim me? Mira's hand trembled against the cage. Not as property. Nerya's breath broke. Mira's voice strengthened. As daughter. The lower archive exploded in silver light. Every suspended body turned toward them. Not all awake. Not all free. But all witnessing. The birthcloth flew from Nerya's side and wrapped around Mira's cage. Infant blood, maternal memory, and witness law met in one violent flash. The bars around Mira split from top to bottom. Nerya caught her mother as she fell. Mira was thin, cold, barely standing, but real. Arms closed around Nerya with a force no law had managed to erase. For one heartbeat, Nerya forgot the court, the throne, the cage. Even Ronan. Someone remembered her without needing proof. Then the archive shook. Meryn slammed his staff into the floor. If maternal origin is restored, every stored bond must return through nearest bloodline. Some have no bloodline left. Some have no living mate. Some will collapse. Some will attach to the cage breaker by sympathy. You cannot reverse generations in one sentimental breath. The cruelty was that he was not entirely wrong. Nerya felt the danger. Bonds circled the lower archive, unstable and aching. If released blindly, they could tear through living wolves and bury the restored beneath memories they could not hold. Ronan rose slowly. Then we do not release blindly. Nerya looked at him. He turned to the cages. Every stored bond will be witnessed before return. Every marriage built on theft will be reviewed. Every treaty made from erased consent will stand suspended, not destroyed, until those harmed can speak. Meryn spat. You will break the kingdom. No, Nerya said. The silver storm gathered behind her like wings. We will stop letting the kingdom survive by breaking people first. The cage blazed. Cage breaker function complete. Reversal requires living court. The lower archive opened a path upward. The kingdom had been taught to forget in public. It had to remember in public too. Nerya climbed back to the moon court with Mira beside her and Ronan behind her, still holding the witness chain. Mehron was dragged after them, stripped of staff and title by silver light. When they returned, the court stood frozen among broken scent lines and loosened false bonds. Nerya walked to the open silver cage. Not inside it. Before it, she placed one scarred wrist against the nearest bar. No bond returns as ownership, no scent returns as command. No erased person becomes proof for a throne. The cage wrote the words into moon law. Ronan stepped beside her, not ahead. I renounce the right of the Veyr throne to own prison oaths. Mate, bonds, bond, memory, scent records, or the bodies used to hold them. The black wolf throne cracked from base to crown. Silver bars fell from it like dead branches. Mehron tried to speak. The cage spoke first. Mehron, thornkeeper of edited bonds, warden of unrecorded bodies, stripped of moon law until every name is heard. Silver wrapped him completely. Not killing, holding. Let him learn what waiting meant. Then the cage opened all its bars. Not to release everything at once. To show the path, Aveline Rook's name rose into the hall and hovered beside the others. No longer inside Nerya's throat. Ronan closed his eyes as the scent passed him. But he did not reach for it. That was his final proof. He let the stolen thing belong to its own name. Nerya watched him. Something between them changed then. Not fate, not claim, something harder earned. Respect, choice, the possibility of love not built from theft. Ronan turned to her, voice low. I will answer for what my throne carried. You will, Nerya said. He bowed his head. Not to crown her. To accept judgment. Dawn touched the glass ceiling of the moon court. The silver cage no longer stood as a prison. Its bars had opened into an arch of moonlight, leading down to the lower archive where the forgotten waited to be heard one by one. Nerya stood beneath it with her mother's hand in hers, scars glowing silver, no longer a vessel, no longer cursed blood, no longer the girl the world could misplace. She was Nerya Vale, cage breaker. The woman law had failed to digest, and when the court tried to look away, the cage made them remember.